Howdy. Wanted to do this YouTube video. Some people asked me to clarify some things about the first essay, and of course, I'm happy to do so. Doing this recording on Monday, February 12th, a couple of days before Valentine's Day. Just to review the schedule tonight, your topic for your first essay is due. Kind of want to see what you're thinking about working with. What idea of Johnston are you going to apply, in your own way to a dollhouse and two other things we've read this semester. Then this Thursday, the first two paragraphs are due. That'll just be a check-in, just make sure you're on the right track and moving on the essay. Next Monday, the 19th, the draft's due. Once those are in, I'll send those out, and you'll try and help each other out through peer reviews. Then those will be due next Thursday. Then following Monday, the essay's due. I'm going to ask you to watch Oedipus the King either that Thursday or over spring break, whatever your schedule permits. If you got a ton of projects coming due the week before spring break, I have no problem with you waiting until spring break to watch it. That'll get us to spring break. Let's go here. Up there on the essay assignments area on the content page, I've put up some study notes for a full reading on a dollhouse. One that gives you a couple of videos of a dollhouse so you can kind of see how different people have staged it. And this takes you through some questions. You don't have to write the answers down or anything, but you kind of read a dollhouse and kind of thought, what do I do with that? Those questions will take you through some of the bigger issues going on into play and get you thinking about those. I'm going to go over the first essay. The link's right here. I've already got it opened, I think. There we go. I went over this in the previous video, but the first paragraph on the essay, you're going to introduce Brian Johnston's essay, quote from him, and show us what idea of his you're going to use in your essay. And again, you're not trying to understand the entire essay. He's an Ibsen scholar who studied this all his academic life. He's going to lose this once in a while, and that's okay. But it's kind of a neat introduction into how humanities professors think about their work and go about it. Also, it's not quite a complete essay. It's still kind of in draft form. So he'll throw some ideas out and just kind of leave them hanging. And one of those might be a good thing for you to work with in your essay. But the first paragraph, you're going to discuss Johnston, show us what you think he's saying, and then give us your thesis telling us how you're going to make this your own in your essay. Then the body of the essay, you're going to show your own thoughts regarding a dollhouse, this idea of Johnston's, or how you're going to, or whatever twist you are going to take on that idea. How are you going to apply that to a dollhouse and two other works we've read this semester? And again, you shouldn't be doing research for this. This should be your ideas. Turn it in and starts highlighting a bunch of stuff up that can be a problem. Going to have a good concluding paragraph, and you're going to have the works cited page. Not an easy essay, because you got to kind of figure out what you want to say, what you think Johnston's trying to say. Then you got to try and kind of get away from Johnston and make it your own, and then apply it to those three works. Kind of hopefully something we've been practicing a little bit with the response papers, but it's a little harder when you start getting to a full-length essay. I want to show you a sample essay. Again, this is in MLA formatting. We've been doing this with the response papers, your name, my name, class. I prefer the section number on there and the date. Your last name, page number, and the header. And of course the title. But he's going to get into the essay by introducing Brian Johnston and telling us what he thinks Johnston's saying. So in Realism and a Dollhouse, and you'll notice full-length plays are italicized. Article titles or essay titles are in quote marks. So you kind of got both going on there in that Realism and a Dollhouse. Brian Johnston states that, to some critics, Henrik Ibsen's purpose in a dollhouse was the betterment of the status of women in 19th century Norway. Doesn't really need the page number there, but that's okay. He goes on to explain that one way Ibsen accomplished his objective was to portray the conflict between female laws and male laws in his main characters, Nora and Torvald Helmer. He claims, and he gives a quote, these brackets show that he made a change to the quote, probably just to clarify it or make the grammar work better with his introduction. But he gives a quote, quoting Ibsen there. Actually, he has Johnston quoting Ibsen, so ultimately he cites Johnston in that source, right? Then he goes on to explain what he thinks that quote means. Traditional gender roles and societal expectations characterize what Johnston calls the male laws and the female laws. the male laws involved. And he goes on and explains what he thinks Johnson's trying to say there. So don't just throw a quote out and think the reader sees what you see. Make sure you explain what you think that quote is saying. Then he gets down to his thesis. The conflict between female laws and male laws is a common theme not only in Ibsen's play A Dollhouse, but also in Sophocles' play Antigone, spelled wrong there, and Susan Glaspell's play Trifles. We haven't read those for this class. He read that for his class. But pretty much the same assignment, right? You got to start with the Johnston, apply it to A Dollhouse, and then 2 other things you've read this semester. And then he goes on to, starts getting into A Dollhouse and starts telling us how this idea of male versus female laws works through A Dollhouse. You read about that, in Johnston's essay too. So, pretty good, especially with these 3 plays. Pretty good line of thought to work with, because all 3 plays deal with this male versus female conflict within the plays. And they do kind of do it in the way Johnston talks about, where the men are, kind of the societal authority, political, administrative, juridical folks. Hard word to say. They control the money, things like that, and the women kind of run the house. And that's what he's getting into there. Starting with A Dollhouse, giving quotes to support what he's saying. Make sure you introduce the quote. Give the citation with the page number if you're getting it out of our textbook. And then you want to comment on the quote. Don't just give a quote and move on. Quotes should support what you say, not say it for you, right? When you see the 3 dots within a quote, that means the writer took something out of the quote, and those ellipses show that omission. Otherwise, quote should be word for word, right? Use the 3 dots to show omission and the brackets to show a change or addition to a quote. He spends a couple of paragraphs on A Dollhouse. Long quotes offset twice. Long quotes are 4 or more lines. He does not need that there. And quotes are fine, but just make sure you're commenting on them. Like right here, I kind of say that's right after a long quote, you probably want a little more commentary on it. But he's just taking us through A Dollhouse, showing how this idea of Johnston's runs through it and how he's kind of making the discussion his own as well, not just summarizing what Johnston says. Then he moves on to the second work. If you want to, you can kind of refresh us what you think Johnston's saying, but don't put a lot of Johnston in the body of your essay. It should be you analyzing the work based on that one idea you've chosen out, and you trying to make it your own essay, right? And that's what he does with Antigone. He's taking us through the play a little bit, showing us how the male versus female idea works. It's interesting in both Antigone and A Dollhouse, the females, when they try to exert power, it ends up being very destructive, right? Nora leaves the marriage. Antigone destroys herself and Creon. But again, there's the brackets within a direct quote to show that he added the name there just to clarify what was going on in the quote. I see my little note there, don't end the paragraph with a quote. Quote support what you say, don't stop after a quote. Then he keeps on talking about Antigone, developing his ideas, showing us how that idea works through that play. Then he gets on to the third work, Trifles. This discussion might be a little shorter. Trifles is a much shorter play. It's a 1-act play. So, discussion may not be quite as much, but he's given pretty much equal weight to all 3 plays. And showing how that idea of Johnston's runs through those plays and how he could make that discussion his own and, kind of turn that idea of Johnston into his own essay. Then we get the brilliant conclusion. You're not just going to restate your thesis here, right? You're taking us on this journey. Tell us what the point of it all is. What was the point of your analysis? You might notice like, all these works written over 100 years ago, well over 100 years ago, still affect us today. Why do we still read them? Do we still have problems with men and women arguing with each other? Of course we do. Are they doing it through a certain ethical viewpoint that makes it hard for us to communicate? There's an good argument there either way, but made for a good essay for him. And make sure, again, don't just restate your thesis. Tell us the point of your analysis. Bring us back to the big picture. Get some good works cited entries. With plays, you're going to italicize them. With essays or short story titles or poetry titles, they'll be in quote marks. So look, a dollhouse will look one way on the works cited page, and then if you're going to do a short story like the open boat or something, it'll be in quote marks, not italicized. For a dollhouse, you need the translator. One new thing to add to the works cited entries. But it's got a good works cited page going there. And that's what it should look like. Should have Johnston on works cited page, then the 3 works you're going to discuss on the works cited page, and that should be it. No more research, right? But that's basically how the essay is going to work. And again, hopefully once you get going on it, it's not quite as hard as it sounds, but trying to get through Johnston's essay is difficult. You got to keep a dollhouse in your head, then you got to go back and think of how that might apply to 2 other works. So it's not an easy essay, but you can get through it. Again, I'm here to answer your questions if you have them. But hopefully that helps a little bit. I'm going to get off here. If you have more questions or you want to know the video, just let me know. Bye-bye.